Hello, I have a concept that I hope that you will find well, and it's about how to automatically join workloads onto an external Kubernetes control plane. And we'll have a brief look at the cluster first before we dive into the details. But the plan is to bootstrap the workloads and see how they will register automatically into the Kubernetes cluster. And the control plane at this stage is ready, but there are missing components at the data plane that we need to add. And there are probably some components that differ from what you usually see in a Kubernetes cluster. And remember, this is just a concept and not a battle-tested solution for production environments, but I want to share my thoughts, and perhaps there are someone out there who will find this concept inspirational. And we begin to look into the cluster and see what we have. Okay, we have no nodes. And strangely enough, we have no pods. We can run the client command cluster input to see what we believe we have. And we receive an output that we have a control plane running at a 10.22.14 subnet. Do we have anything at all in the cluster? Well, we have a default Kubernetes service, and that's actually the service that points down to the Kube API server. But it's something fishy about this. So it's about that I tell a bit more details on what's underneath. And as you can see here, both the kubectl and the Kube API server, or in fact the whole control plane, is running on illumos. And why illumos, you may ask? Well, that's because I have my infrastructure at home running on illumos with a mixture of Linux virtual machines and Linux zones and illumos zones, various brands. But that's not what we are about to talk about here. And we need to have something in the data plane in order for this. So we'll begin with deploying the component that is most common in all clusters, and that's the core DNS. And in this case, we will use the upstream core DNS and just replace state information that applies to our cluster, like amount of replicas and where we can find the cluster DNS in the cluster CIDR range. And we can see here, we deployed a couple of objects. So how does it look now? Well, we have two core DNS pods, but they are pending because there are no data plane nodes running. So we'll do like this. We'll first have this on wait, and we'll go over to another terminal and create a work node. And this work node is a virtual machine running Ubuntu 22.04, and it's deployed with Cloud Init, and the hypervisor is bhyve. I think it's a neat solution. As we may see here, is that when this node is bootstrapping, it will send a request to the certificate authority and fetch the CA certificate, and then we'll create a CSR request and get the certificate and the key back for the kubelet. And as you see here, we have one working node ready. Here we can see we receive certificate back and we set the kubelet information. As all resources communicating, as we utilize the kubectl or kubectl, we use a kubeconfig. That's also the case for the kubelet. So now we will actually have another node. And one more. You may ask why numbers here. I've predefined a couple of numbers because I've registered them into the DNS. And 2 or 3 machines in the series or IPs were already occupied by other stuff. And these machines should come up in just a second. And there we have the second working node. And we'll probably have, yes, the third one. So now we have 3 nodes. Is everything great now? It turns out that it's not. We now have data plane components, but the core DNS will not really jump up and run because we need something that enables the communication here. So we need to deploy a CNI. And for those of you that know me, knows that my favorite CNI and solution for the Kubernetes clusters is Cilium. And that's what we are going to use. And I will install it with a Cilium CLI, which I have compiled for the illumos platform as well. And we will install it with, wait a second. We will first install CRDs that will enable stuff for us. It's the Gateway API project CRDs, or custom resource definitions. And misspelling, it doesn't really matter because we will not set up a TLS route, but the documentation tells us that we should deploy all the CRDs. I think it would be fine to skip some of this, like the reference grounds and TLS routes that we will not use at this demo. But now I will do the Cilium installation. And we can see here from the options that I will enable the Gateway API, which had a prerequisites to put those CRDs in place. I will also enable Hubble. And for those of you that are unfamiliar with it, it's the observability functionality out of the Cilium package. And we can see the network traffic here. And we'll deploy BGP and announce the load balancer. And I have already had BGP running here at home in my home infrastructure. And that's something that I expect all families to have. It's nice to have, and it enables lots of possibilities to run multiple solutions. And this is the magic bullet that enables it all. And that's the kube proxy replacement equals to true, which means that we will deploy Cilium without the kube proxy. And before the kube proxy free deployment, I had lots of troubles to get Kubernetes cluster up and running. This kube proxy relies quite a lot of the net filter solution. And we'll utilize the Cilium play command to see, tell us when it believes it's done. We could do it with a daemon set for the Cilium agent. It tells us it's already done, and the Cilium CLI tells us the same. But it doesn't mean that it's necessarily true. So we'll ask the Cilium agent and this tells us that it's not true yet. And I believe it will be true within half a minute or less. It will be true within like 10 seconds. Okay, 5 seconds. Now it's done. It's something about the work too. It's this code. We will look at it. Kubelet. Since I'm happy. Okay, now it's happening. It usually takes between 1 and 2 minutes in this setup, but perhaps my machine is working hard right now. So now we have CNI in place, and everything is up and running. And we can look into the agent. and see how the BGP looks like. Nothing. And that's because we haven't deployed any peering policy and we haven't declared a load balancer IP pool yet. So we will do that. Is everything okay now? Let's see. No, it turns out that we have a node selector here. So we need to label all the nodes. And the reason I have to write everything is that I haven't moved the completion scripts for bash over to illumos as of yet. So there are no tab completion. They are labeled. Is it working now? Well, yes. We have established a connection with the peer. But we haven't announced any load balancer IPs yet. We have one load balancer service as we have deployed ingress, but it's only reservation. It doesn't announce anything because we haven't tied anything to the ingress manager. But we will patch the Hubble UI. And have a new look at the here's no session going on yet. You can see here. I think Hubble UI needs to be restarted here. Okay. And it looks like we need to do the same with the Hubble relay. Hubble is a very faithful deployment, but I have noticed sometimes during the initial deployment into a cluster that it can be struggling a bit. Now we can see here, we have communication here. We can also look into the Hubble CLI, which I also have ported here. You can see it here also. That's good. And we can have a look at the gateway API. Deployment just for that case. And it seems I have left an open open connection to the console. I think it could have been my forward here. Let's see. This one, it's a deployment or 2 deployments and 2 services for each deployment. And it's the gateway and HTTP route. And it's the gateway that holds the IP. And you can see it here. And the HTTP route contains information on the backend services. And we are telling here that 100% for everything should go to the one service. See if it works. We can refresh here. And we could probably see it here too. We can touch this and tell that we want a 50-50 split between the services. Copy paste issues. Let's see. It feels like more or less 50-50. I can't curl from this environment because I don't have any routes to that. I haven't announced this route to this environment, so it's only reachable from the outside. But that's basically the concept that I wanted to show. And the certificate authority is actually that machine we're on now. You can see we have created a bunch of certificates, and we are using the CFSSL from Cloudflare, and the created a service around it and serve on port 8888. And then I populate the cloud init stanza. So I asked this service. And it's some concept that I have a chance to write about in a future article. And it will probably end up both here in my new blog platform as well as a Medium blog platform. The reason for me to go for a new one is that I don't really like the paywalls that Medium implies on everything. I don't write for money, I write to share knowledge and share ideas. And if you find this useful or big headache, or if you have some critique or anything, please reach out to me and comment. And is this something that you want to see more of? Should I create more content like this? This is my first time, and I got a question before on running a demo of the illumos setup, and now it is 1 or 2 years later. Thanks for me.